Congratulations to the Severn School class of 2019. Congratulations, the world is ahead. Congratulations, all of you. Ever the kindest of friends, the most loving of companions in this little adventure we've lived. Congratulations, everyone, and goodbye. We came here one by one, all of us strangers, offering our hands to each other shyly. If I can speak from my own experience, not a single one of us comprehended on our first day that those people we were meeting would have become the chief actors in our lives for years to come. We came here not knowing or caring for each other. But as those first months passed, we started to feel for each other. Our passions and longings began to become entangled with these people we just met, and our hearts began to become focused on those people who had been strangers so soon before. These people we called our truest friends. These people we envied. These we couldn't help but love. And that's how we've lived these years in this little bubble of ours. Entangled with each other, by friendship and hope, and yes, by envy and fear, and by love. We've lived our days together, and if I can speak for myself again, we've even lain awake at night thinking of each other, till images of each other have passed over into our dreams. There in that shadow realm of the mind, where we seem to see what our hearts really care about, there we've seen each other. And that's proof of the strength of the bond we've shared. That's proof that what we've shared has been real. I'm standing here today. I want this thing between us to endure forever. I want to give everything I have to make sure that the love we've shared never dies. And yet, I realized something troubling as I was writing this speech. I realized that I hardly ever hear adults I know talking about their memories of high school. To see them, you'd think high school only existed for them as a skeleton of events, empty of the passions and longings that have been the lifeblood of our time here. What adult ever talked about how much he trusted some friend in high school, or cared about that team, or enjoyed that event? We know from our time here that we have felt plenty of passions at Severn. And yet, no adult seems to remember feeling the same. It makes me sad to think that our cares for each other could meet that same fate, that same oblivion in our memories, and all our love and friendship could disappear forever. And I'm not the first person to think that we could stop caring for each other. I want to paint a little scene for you. It's the end of Spirit Week this year. We'd fought excellently the year before, but we had lost, at least according to some calculations. Anyway, even though we were resting confidently this year, knowing from the year before that we couldn't possibly lose, regardless, we destroyed every task at Spirit Week. Most of all, we destroyed El Holloway. On to sing for your supper, the last event of our last Spirit Week, the beginning of a long series of lasts that ends today. Even then, we knew that we were facing the end of all this. The girls said goodbye with the cup song, "You're gonna miss me when I'm gone," and the guys said goodbye by rolling up their shorts and singing Jingle Bell Rock. Which, I promise girls, is my gender's same way of singing a goodbye song. But it's the end that I want to talk about. That last moment, when all of us in the chairs stood up to swarm the stage, it was a moment filled with joy and laughter, and not only because we proved incapable of actually making it onto the stage. We became enthralled by the music. We let it carry us away into the immortality of excitement. We rejoiced for how meaningful a thing it was to be saying goodbye. But do you remember that song that was playing at the end? Amidst all the craziness of that moment, the speakers let loose a single plea into the air. Don't you forget about me. What the singer is wishing for, that's the heart of the matter. He's singing about his wish to hold on to the friends of a moment, to make sure that the love he found with a few friends for a time doesn't disappear because the time is over. I'm close to wishing that same thing for us today, wishing that we will hold on to each other, we'll keep loving each other as we have for these years, for all of our lives. But I know that's wrong. I know it's time for us to go. For this last year, I've been hearing whispers and sensing hints of a wider world outside of Severn, a world promising hope and wonder. I know it's time for us to depart for that world, though it means saying goodbye to the fond friends of this one. We have to go. And it's not just friends we're saying goodbye to. It's a whole host of parents and teachers that have given us their love from the start. We have to leave them all, or else we'll stay in our cribs, always crying out for the wonder of a life that would have been ours if we had only stepped out the door. Look at the Winter musical. The premise of the story was a young man, our age, trapped by the world of his youth. Prince Dauntless was lost in the embrace of his mother, and because he was lost, no one in the kingdom could get married. In the play, marriage stood for the fertility principle. It's for growth and change and rebirth and hope. Because Dauntless couldn't leave his mother, the whole kingdom inhabited an unchanging, decaying world empty of that fertility. And only by escaping his mother's hold could the prince restore growth and change to the kingdom. And so it is with us. We have to leave the past behind, whether it's our friends or our guardians that hold us where we are. Parents and teachers, I promise, it's not that any of you has been near as evil as Queen Mallory.
No.
It's anything but that. It's that, because of all the love you've given us, you tempt us to stay put. But we have to go, or else we risk being trapped in an unchanging wasteland like Dauntless's kingdom. We have to go. And as we do, we can give you only cheap words in return for all the years you've given us. So let me give what I can. Teachers, parents, everyone, thank you. Teachers, thank you for your unwavering faith and love. I know we were often hard to deal with, but whatever we did, you always managed to see the best in us. Thank you especially to Miss Fuller. You're departing on your own adventure now. May you find beautiful sunsets and wonderful people wherever you go. You understand as well as anybody why we can't let the past keep us from our futures. May you find many more moments that will make you cry for joy in your future. Best of luck always. Parents and family, I can't say enough. Thank you for giving us your lives, every day of them for the last 18 years. Thank you for your unconditional love. And thank you now for letting us go, though I know it pains you more than I can understand. If you love something, set it free. And now you're setting us free. Thank you. And thank you, all of you friends, for a wonderful 4 years. But I still don't want this moment to be the end. Real love is not a thing that holds us back from where we need to go. It's something that goes beyond separations of space and time. Something that endures in the soul past goodbye. And so even though we are setting out in different paths, even though we are destined to change with time, our love can still endure in our hearts. And as our attachment with everyone, parents, teachers, and friends, tries to hold us where we are, this thought should give us the courage to set out. But I'm still unsure that our love really will endure in our memories. There are a few lines from Hamlet that show the problem well. In the scene, Hamlet is standing in a graveyard and finds the skull of the jester he knew when he was young. Since we elected Ethan Griffin as our unclass clown, he can take the place of Hamlet's jester. Alas, poor Griffin. I knew him, a fellow of infinite puns, of endless stubbornness. He hath called Mariah's short 1,000 times. Now how abhorred in my imagination it is. There be your puns now. There be your occasional good pun that was wont to set the table on a roar. Have you been punished? And it's not just Griffin we stand to lose. It's all of us. Teachers too. Alas, poor Miss Leppy. I knew her. She always had food for us. Here hung that mouth that hath told Nick and Henry to be quiet I know not how oft. Where be your markers now? Abby stole them. Where be your p-values now? Your determinants? your partial credit that saved all of our grades. The real line from Hamlet that matters is this. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him. A fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. He hath borne me on his back 1,000 times, and now how abhorred in my imagination it is. My gorge rises at it. When I picture Hamlet in that graveyard looking at that skull, I see us looking back at our time at Severn decades from now. Hamlet's words make me think that when we think of Severn, the joy of our time here will be abhorred in our imaginations. That we will have moved so greatly into the future that we start to hate the joy of this past. I think the reason we could start to feel this way is because of our longing for meaning in life. We tend to see happiness as essentially boring, and sadness as something more meaningful. Nobody ever wrote a story about a person that was happy all the time. It'd be too boring. And so when we look back and tell ourselves the stories of our lives, it's almost painful for us to think that some of our moments were simple and happy, not layered in sorrow. And if we look back on our time here in that way, we could start to hate the memories of simple joy we've had. And that's how our love could die. I hope I'm not painting too bleak a picture of the years to come. I hope I'm not suggesting that we will inevitably be so starved for meaning that we need to lie to ourselves, tell ourselves that our past was layered and full of sadness to find meaning. But for certain, we will face hardship. Who would have thought pain would still exist in the 21st century? Our ancestors toiled for millennia so that we could enjoy the paradise of abundance we live in. And yet, even though we seem to have everything we need, we still struggle. It's a paradox. How can the 21st century be the age of anxiety? It's proof that material goods were never the secret to happiness, but rather that it's some mindset, some capacity to deal with whatever comes with a hopeful heart. But hope is scarce. In 100 different ways, from government debt to climate change to the very fact that's always been there, that we are all destined to die, the world seems to be approaching apocalypse. We need hope, but we cannot find it in our future. So let's turn our eyes to the past. Real hope isn't looking at the way things are and saying, because of this and this and this, we know the odds are that the future is going to be happy. That's too weak, and it's easily crushed if things don't work out to be happy. Real hope is a faith in the ultimate wonder of everything, an understanding that we derive from seeing the beauty of everything around us, that there's something good at the heart of the universe that always triumphs in the end. We don't need to know that the future is happy. We just need to know that there's goodness in the world. And for that, we can look to the past. We can acknowledge the simple joy of our past. We can take from the joy of our time here, from the love we've shared, that faith in the goodness of everything. And even if everything falls to pieces, even if in some moment years ahead we lie alone and starved and weary on the sand of a barren earth, we can remember that once we were children here, and were happy in that simple way that children are. And we can take from that memory the faith we need to stand up and search for happiness again. And so my advice today, don't forget about the joy we've shared. Set out and set out bravely, and always remember, whatever sorrows come, that we were happy here. That your memories of your time at Severn, those memories of love, be a matter of hope for all your lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy.